Welcome to our first tutorial on how to create a project with the Nebraska Game and Parks Commission's Conservation and Environmental Review Tool, or CERT. If you are here to start the environmental review process, please note that by using CERT, the review consists of at least two parts. The first is creating a project in the tool, and the second is reviewing the Environmental Review Report, or the CERT report. We are only going to cover creating a project in this tutorial video. I've already logged in with my CERT account to create a project. If you don't have an account, pause this video and create one. In order to create projects and generate CERT reports, you must have an account. Before we get started, I want to take a moment to explain why someone might be using CERT. This is because the Nebraska Game and Parks Commission has been designated as the state agency in Nebraska with the responsibility for protecting state-listed threatened and endangered species under the authority of the Nebraska Non-Game and Endangered Species Conservation Act, also known as NESCA. NESCA states that all state agencies shall, in consultation with Game and Parks, ensure projects they authorize, meaning issue a permit for, fund, or carry out, do not jeopardize Nebraska's listed species or result in the destruction of their critical habitat. What this means is that if you are applying for a permit, or getting funding, or partnering with one of Nebraska's state agencies, you must consult with Game and Parks first. When you know you need to consult with us, you can use CERT to complete this environmental review process. Now that we know why we're using CERT, let's create a project. Up in the yellow toolbar is the Map tab. Click on Map to get started. For this tutorial, I'll be creating a fake project where our Game and Parks headquarters building is in Lincoln. I recommend switching base maps. To see what this area looks like in a more realistic way, click on Switch Base Map. I'm choosing Imagery Hybrid, but you use what is most helpful for you to create your project area. To start creating a project, click on the Create Project button. There are two easy ways to create a project area. The first is drawing your area. You will see that your pointer states Click to start drawing. When you click anywhere on the screen, a black line will stretch from the selected area as you click around the project area. Once you are done drawing the shape, double-click to secure it. If you make a mistake, you can click the trash can to start over, or the connections point to alter the shape. The second way to create a project is uploading a file. If you already have project designs, you can import that file and create a project. Click the gray-colored folder. This pop-up window will ask you to select a file to upload. The file must be the right type, so make sure to read through what's available. Find the correct file you'd like to upload and click Open. Once you click Accept, the submission form will pop up. This is where you'll enter in information about your project. Project title. Enter a descriptive title for the project. If you're just practicing with CERT, please put the word TEST in all caps. User project number. Enter a project number associated with your project. This could be your organization's ID number for this project, a grant application number, or a permit number. A common permit number that would fit here is a construction stormwater permit number. State nexus. Open the drop-down list. You will see the option to pick a Nebraska state agency. Select the agency that is either funding, permitting, or carrying out your project. This is your state nexus and is the reason for needing an environmental review. For example, if you're applying for a construction stormwater permit, you would select Department of Environment and Energy. We're aware of the name change for this agency and are working on updating our system. The other option should only be used for projects that have a state nexus, but the state agency they need something from is not shown on the list. The Not Applicable option should only be used for projects that do not have a state nexus. For example, projects in early planning stages, such as during the National Environmental Policy Act or NEPA process. Funding source or permit requirements. This selection goes hand in hand with the State Nexus drop-down list. Select State Permit or Funding only if you selected a Nebraska state agency from the drop-down list, or Other. Select both state and federal permit or funding if you selected a Nebraska state agency from the drop-down list, or Other, and you know the project needs a federal permit or federal funding. Select Federal Permit or Federal Funding if you are receiving federal funds or getting a permit from a federal agency and you picked Not Applicable from the drop-down list. This selection explicitly directs you to choose a conservation planning report from the list of project types below. Select none of the above if you picked Not Applicable from the drop-down list below. Project types. Before looking at all the project types, let's go over the Conservation Planning Report. Pick this option if you selected Not Applicable from the drop-down list and either of the last two options under the funding source or permit requirements. This report is not an environmental review and functions only as a species list for informational purposes. This is typically used for early planning, NEPA, or projects with no state nexus. When Game and Parks created CERT, we identified the most common project types that require environmental reviews. Look through all the project types and then select the most accurate one for your project. Some project types have project type activities. When I clicked on Communication Towers, project type activities showed up to pick from. Select all the applicable activities that will take place in your project area. Please note that not all project types will have project type activities. Project description. The project description fields prompt you to explain in detail information on your project, including project timing and duration, the existing land use within your project area, and if any water bodies will be impacted by your project. Thoroughly explain your project in these description boxes. Now that you've filled out all the relevant information about your project, the last question asks, to your knowledge, has the project undergone a previous environmental review? With the option to pick yes or no. This project may have an old report if it moved from one phase to the next, changed in scope or size, switched employees, or has multiple consulting firms working on it. Please provide the CERT number and a brief explanation of what has changed. If you are not sure if a review has already been done, please contact us and we can look through our files. On behalf of. If you are submitting a project on behalf of another entity or client, enter it here. File attachments. We expect that supporting documentation is uploaded into your project. Examples could include engineering designs, wetland delineations, site photos, and maps. Project Edit Status. We've reached the end of the submission form. At this time, leave the button Draft selected. The Submit button. When you are ready, click on the Submit button. A pop-up window will let you know that CERT is analyzing your project. While CERT analyzes your project, I recommend visiting the CERT Help tab. You can find more of our tutorial videos and guidance documents on understanding the next step in the environmental review process, that is, interpreting your CERT report. Should you run into any issues or have any questions, please contact us. Thank you for watching.